Welcome back to the channel. With the Pro Bowl behind us and a new champion crowned, we can now close the book on 2021 and the entire NFL landscape can dive headfirst into the offseason. The Senior Bowl is come and gone. New coaches have been named, signaling a precursor of many more changes of personnel and player movement, like free agency and the NFL draft. However, as exciting as those aspects are of the offseason, arguably equally as important is keeping your own players ahead of free agency. And when it comes to this year's Cowboys, perhaps the most important part of their offseason. The Cowboys have roughly 20 players to decide on whether or not to keep, with varying degrees of necessity. I want to discuss a handful of these players and give you my take on whether or not the Cowboys should bring them back or let them go play somewhere else. Before I begin, I ask that if you like this video, leave a like, and if you love this video, hit that sub button for similar content. Like I said before, they have about 20 players to resign, but for the sake of keeping it short, I'm going to speak on the lesser priority players first, before expanding on 10 players they'll have a harder time deciding on, 5 that should stay, and 5 that should go. I should also explain that my rationale and reasoning isn't solely based on stats or production, but also if the Cowboys can replace that player given their free agency philosophies and available resources. With that said, here are my thoughts on the lesser priority players. I'll start with Ty Nsekhe. Nsekhe was supposed to be a veteran backup, but very quickly lost his job to Terrence Steele, who started several games and at the very least is the top backup to left tackle, and will also be joined by second-year tackle Josh Ball. The Keanu Neal experiment didn't work, and he didn't tackle well in space. Morris Kennedy never got the playing time some thought he deserved, and the team was not missing much without him. Then Devontae KZ and Noah Brown can help and contribute, but you can give their roles to somebody else. As far as who to keep, Corey Clement proved that he can carry the ball and play special teams, even going as far as returning kicks in case something were to happen to Tony Pollard. Jake McQuaid is basically a lock to come back based on his relationship with John Fossil. Urban also did a lot of good in the preseason and was hurt for the year, but is overall a good run stopper. Carlos Watkins also played the run pretty solid. And finally, Malik Turner might have some untapped potential that the Cowboys should see through. At number 5 is Malik Hooker. In no way, shape, or form did the hype surrounding Dallas signing him match up with the impact that he had on the field. But when he played, he showed his competency as a tackler and supported the run. Also, I still think he has the range to play center field and can handle more of the workload if asked to do so. Once again, I get it. He didn't play all that much last year. Still, he was targeted 28 times in pass coverage and only allowed 57% of those passes to be completed for just 9 yards a catch. If you're a Cowboys fan, you already know the almost carefree attitude the team has about safeties, and one like Hooker to fall in their laps at his current price last year felt almost too good to be true. That is unless both sides can come to a similar agreement for 2022. Injury concerns are why he was available in the first place, but Dallas hasn't been shy about giving a hurt player a chance, and in this case, neither am I. Probably not a surprise that I let go of Leighton Vander Esch, and when you look at it from the team perspective, the writing has been on the wall for some time. Ever since Dallas elected not to pick up his 5th-year option, he's been sitting on borrowed time. It's a 180 from the rookie season that saw him go to the Pro Bowl and draw comparisons to Brian Urlacher from Cowboys coaches. The player that we saw maneuver around blocks and play from sideline to sideline hasn't been there. And like many players I'll discuss in the video, injuries have also been a factor. Last year was only the second season he's played a full year going back to 2018. You can make the case that cutting back his playing time is why. However, unlike Malik Hooker, he wasn't better in fewer chances. Dallas tried to use him more as a blitzer than he ever had been in his career, and the results weren't good. He blitzed a career high 36 times and only got 4 quarterback pressures. So whether it's injury, fit in the system, or just opportunities to play, it's best if the Cowboys let the wolf hunter go find greener pastures. Next up is DORANCE Armstrong. Since being drafted back in 2018, the Cowboys have been patient with him and given him plenty of chances to play. While at times there were flashes, he wasn't always consistent. It was a different story in 2021. Their patience paid off with a career-high 5 sacks. They may not seem like much, but having played barely over half the snaps, it's not bad. At 24 years old, Armstrong could be developing into a very good player with plenty of physical upside. The Dallas front office could see the same thing and approach Armstrong with a team-friendly, moderate to lower-tier market contract, not too unlike they've done before. My best guess would be somewhere in the range of $24 million over 3 years. I don't think Connor Williams is nearly as bad as some fans might think, and hasn't been for much of his Cowboys career. Also, if I'm being fair, He's been fighting an uphill battle ever since he wound up in Dallas. First, as a prospect. There are questions about if he fit better as a left tackle or as a guard, and naturally that brought on questions about his strength. Then there were rumors about Dallas trading for safety Earl Thomas, and the cost of the trade being a second-round pick, which became Connor Williams. He's never been able to go unnoticed for the right reasons, and that's twofold for an NFL lineman. Unfortunately for him, last year is where the wheels fell off, picking up 14 penalties, tied for second most in the NFL, and being benched for Connor McGovern. Letting Connor Williams go would be the best choice for everybody involved. This might be the most unanimous one, and with good reason. After 2020, Dallas was in serious need for a punter after Chris Jones tried playing through injury and wasn't getting distance on his punts. With almost 50 yards of punt and 24 down inside the 20, Anger made his first Pro Bowl, and the Dallas punting game became a strength from a weakness right away. Coach Fossil has influence over the personnel, and it seems like only a matter of if he wants Anger back or not for a deal to get done. Anger joins about 10 other punters in free agency. But if Dallas doesn't want to go to a bidding war, a pay raise to about $2 million per year looks about right to keep the Pro Bowl punter. I'm perfectly fine with letting Dalton Schultz go, and here's why. While he has improved the last 4 years as a pass catcher, you simply can't ignore that his production can also be done by Blake Jarwin. Let's forget the totals for 1 second and what was Schultz's most productive year in 2021 and just focus on the averages. Last year, Schultz had 10.4 yards a catch to target ratio of 75%, and 7.8 yards per target. Compare that to Blake Jarwin in 2019, the year they got him paid. 11.8 yards a catch to target ratio of 75%, and 8.9 yards per target. Sure, maybe a smaller sample size, but you can't ignore that Jarwin didn't already have a connection with Dak Prescott. Plus, you had to talk about the blocking aspect of Schultz's game. The Cowboys had a major problem with tight ends not blocking last year, and it was on full blast when you saw Dalton Schultz trying to block Chandler Jones. For as much as people like the concept of Connor McGovern playing in the slot, or at fullback, or anywhere else, it's a direct result of tight ends not doing their jobs as blockers. If you're already paying a pass-catching tight end who's not a good blocker, why would you pay a second one? Cedrick Wilson is somebody that I want to bring back based on budget and versatility. In his time in Dallas, he's only started 4 games, all coming last season. Yet, he's flashed big play potential on more than a few times. With limited experience, he shouldn't have a pricey market. As far as versatility, he gives the Cowboys a little bit of everything, and that's not an exaggeration. He can line up in the slot, play wide receiver outside the numbers, and yeah, he can throw a little bit too. When you factor in the ability to return punts and kicks in case of an emergency, there's a lot to like about Cedrick Wilson, and more than good reason to bring him back for a few years. If I'm tossing out numbers, 3 years, $15 million, which is a lot cheaper than what the next player is going to cost. Gallup is a really good player and a fan favorite, and it's going to be hard to see him go, but I believe you got to let him go to cash out somewhere else. He's been a reliable weapon and a sneaky deep threat with good hands, and still very underrated in the ability to go up and get the ball. I think Dallas fans have known for a while that his time was running out, and he's been the focus of trade talks for a few years. I think he's worth about $15 million on the market, even with an ACL injury, right around Cooper Kupp, Jarvis Landry, and Chris Godwin. It's already been said the Giants, Jets, and Ravens are interested should he hit the market. The cost of keeping Gallup and waiting on his recovery isn't something I'd do, given where Dallas might be with their cap. Really good player for his time, but that time is up. The number one player I want Dallas to keep is Jayron Kearse. During the summer, I'd said that Dallas signing Malik Hooker could be very similar to signing Ken Hamlin, where Dallas takes a safety on a 1-year contract, and that player has a big year, which results in a long-term deal. I just didn't know that would be Jayron Kearse. He's been everything the Cowboys could have asked for, playing down in the box to stop the run, and stopping big-time tight ends like Travis Kelce and George Kittle. Conventional numbers like sacks, tackles, and interceptions won't tell you how good he's been, but the more advanced stats will. He was targeted in pass coverage 65 times, and allowed just 61% of those passes to be completed, a rate better than Harrison Smith and Budda Baker. Also, he only missed 3.8% of his tackles, while playing 94% of the snaps. He may hit the Cowboys heavy in the pockets, but Jayron Kearse is a player Dallas has to bring back. A lot of people are going to hate this, as a lot of people like Randy Gregory the player, and have become invested in Gregory the person, myself included. but I think it's best for Dallas to let him make his money somewhere else. It's not that he's a bad player or he's not talented. In fact, I think he's like Brian Burns of Carolina. They can get the edge and easily bend around offensive tackles. Just a matter of money. Carl Lawson and Trey Hendrickson both signed new contracts last offseason, and both were for an average of $15 million per season. You'd have to think that Gregory's value would be near or above that mark. You'd also have to think that he's going for all that he can, because his value has never been higher. At 29 years old, I can't blame him. This might be his only shot at a big payday, and if I'm Dallas, I'm not going to a spot where I'm paying $20 million or more per season. Dallas does still have Terrell Basham and Chauncey Golston to fill in at defensive end, and could look to fill Gregory's spot with a draft pick. Given the way the Cowboys spent very little money in free agency, and hardly look to pay big money to outside free agents, it wouldn't shock me to see many of these players leave. The Cowboys are still over the salary cap, and if last year was any indication, they're not afraid to entrust their mid to late round rookies with significant playing time. At the very least, I'd like to see Jaron Kearse and Cedrick Wilson come back, and Dallas not sink big money into Dalton Schultz or Randy Gregory, but we'll see. Finally, let me know your thoughts and if you agree or disagree. Thanks for watching, and as always, Cowboys up. Peace.